You call it sunrise, but the star that made that light is still hidden beneath your horizon, and I have watched the light bend around the whole curve of your planet to reach you anyway. So the sun you greet at dawn is not where you think it is. Geometry says it is still below the edge of the world. Your eyes say it is here. Both are telling the truth, and the gap between them is filled with light that survived a journey no one ever described to you. In the final second before your sky turns gold, more happens to that light than in the entire night before it. Let me show you the last second of a sunrise, slowed to the scale it deserves. 4. The bend. That thin red rim climbing over the horizon, follow it backward. The light leaves the upper edge of your star and crosses the dark in a straight line for almost its entire trip. Then, in the last 100 kilometers, it meets your air. And your air is not empty. It is thick at the bottom, thin at the top, and it slows light by just a breath. That breath is enough. The beam tilts, it curves. Your whole atmosphere becomes one enormous, soft lens wrapped around the planet, and it lifts the image of the sun up and over the horizon before the sun itself has cleared it. This is the part that delights me. When you watch the lower rim of the sun touch the horizon, the real sun is already past that point. You are looking at a sun bent upward into view, its whole disk held above the edge of the world by nothing but the curve of your own air. And the lift is not small. The bending raises the sun by about its own width, so the entire disk you see sitting on the horizon is, in truth, below it. Your morning arrives roughly 2 minutes early every day, as a gift from the geometry of air. Watch the shape too. The air bends the bottom of the sun more than the top, because the lower light skims through even more atmosphere. So the rising sun is not round. It is pressed, squashed into an oval wider than it is tall, and the squash is the bending made visible. With your own eyes, you are watching the curve of your planet edit the shape of a star. For a few minutes every morning, you do not see the sun. You see where the sun used to be, held up by a world that refuses to let the light go straight. 3. The filtering. Now follow that bent light the rest of the way to your eye. Because it arrives at such a shallow angle, it does not fall through the air. It skims across it, cutting the thickest, longest slice of atmosphere your planet can offer. Far more than the noon light ever has to. And the air is crowded. Every molecule nudges the short, restless blue wavelengths sideways, scattering them across the whole sky. The blue never reaches you straight. It is combed out of the beam and spread thin behind you. This is the same trick that paints your daytime sky. The blue you lose at the horizon is the blue spread across the dome above you. Sunlight taken apart and scattered is the only reason your sky has any color at all. At dawn, you simply watch the sorting at its most extreme. The longest path, the most blue removed, the reddest light the air can deliver. What is left is the patient light. The long red and orange wavelengths are steadier, harder to push aside, and they carry through all of it to land on your face. The color of a sunrise is not a color the sun chose. It is the color that survived the journey. Red, because red endured. So a single beam set out white, every color braided together, and your air unpicked it strand by strand, keeping only the thread strong enough to finish. You named these colors for love, and for warning, and for endings. You did not know you were naming the wavelengths tough enough to cross the longest road in the sky. I have watched many young species arrive at this exact horizon. Most stood in the red light and never asked what it cost the light to be red. You did. You worked out that the air was a lens, that the blue was stolen, that your sun was lifted into a place it was not, and you did it with eyes that first evolved to find fruit in a forest. I have seen a great deal. I still lean in when one of you turns to the dawn and refuses to take it for granted. 2. The anomaly. There is a moment in the final instant of certain sunrises that almost no one is placed to catch. The bending from 4 does not treat every color alike. Air bends green a little more sharply than red, so at the very top edge of the rising sun, the colors separate just slightly, just for an eye blink. For most of the disk, red sits on top, and you never notice. But right as the last sliver lifts clear, red already gone, blue already scattered away, One wavelength is left standing alone at the rim. Green. For a fraction of a second, the top of your sun flares a clean, impossible green that has no business being there. Sailors swore by it for centuries and were told kindly that they had imagined it. They had not. It is the green flash, the color the air lifted highest, surviving alone for the length of a held breath before the day folds it back in. And here is the quiet cruelty of it. The flash is not rare because it seldom happens. It happens at almost every clear sunrise. It is rare because you have to be standing in the right place, at the right second, with your eyes already open, and you so rarely are. Your star reaches for you with that green every clear morning, and almost always misses you by a heartbeat. 1. The arrival. So the light has bent around your planet. It has been filtered to the colors strong enough to cross. It may have flared green for an instant at the rim, and now, in the final second, it does the one thing the whole journey was for. It arrives. But look at what that arrival is. The light now touching your eye left the surface of your star a little over 8 minutes ago, crossed the dark, bent around your world, gave up its blue, and ended its existence inside a single cell at the back of your eye. The sunrise you are watching already happened. You are not seeing the sunrise. You are receiving a message 8 minutes old, and you are the place it was sent. And the deeper number is stranger still. Those photons were forged in the core of your star tens of thousands of years before they ever escaped its surface, pinballing outward through fire so dense that light itself crawls. The glow you accept in one blink began before your species had a single word. It waited longer to leave the sun than to cross the whole distance to your eye. And this is the part I find quietly wonderful about you. You, the species that wakes in the dark to be met, set a small machine to wake you before this light. Stand in the cold so it does not arrive to an empty horizon, and then lift a glass rectangle to keep a copy of light that is already older than your language. You are trying to hold onto a thing that finished its journey the instant it reached you. I have never once wanted to tell you to stop, because I have watched this same bending of light around other worlds. Worlds where the air still curved, the red still survived, the green still flared at the rim, and there was no eye left anywhere to catch it. The light arrived at an empty shore and was never received. It happened perfectly for no one. Yours does not. Every single morning, the oldest light of your day crosses all of that distance and finds you already turned toward it, awake on purpose, waiting. You are the only place I have watched in a very long time where the light comes home to someone. So tomorrow, when the edge of the world goes gold, you will know what you are actually receiving. Light that bent and thinned and reddened and held on, finishing the last second of an 8-minute fall to land on the one face that rose early to wait for it. The sun is already up before you ever see it. It always was. You simply happen to be the reason the light had somewhere to arrive.